What if the next person sleeping on the street was you? You pass them every day. Maybe you look away. Maybe you say, "It's not my problem." But what if you lost your job tomorrow? What if rent went up and you had nowhere to go? Would anyone still see you? Do you believe dignity should depend on a paycheck?
Do not touch me.
I'm touching
Don't
this.
touch me.
I just said I'm not touching you.
Do you think a safe place to sleep is something people should earn, or something everyone deserves? If you've ever walked past someone and wondered how they ended up there, this video isn't just about them, it's about you too. Because in the silence of a busy city, the line between us and them is thinner than you think. Number 1. A humanitarian crisis in the city of dreams. Hollywood illuminates the world with its silver screens and red carpets. Yet just a few blocks away, another spotlight burns, not of fame, but of survival. The homeless crisis in Los Angeles isn't a distant issue. It's one unfolding on sidewalks beneath luxury billboards. Los Angeles, affectionately called the City of Angels, represents the American dream at its flashiest: record deals, tech startups, and beachfront yoga. But that dream, for more than 75,000 residents, has been traded for a blanket on concrete. According to the 2024 Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority LASA report, this is the highest number in California's recorded history, and it's rising. Among them are over 65,000 K-12 students who don't know if their morning starts at school or behind a parking lot fence. There are also 5,100 elderly individuals navigating city life without a roof or reliable medication. These aren't statistics to be pitied. They're red flags ignored by a system that's grown efficient at forgetting. The poverty line here doesn't mark hunger or lack of employment. It now measures the distance between barely surviving and completely invisible. What's particularly jarring is the contrast. Whole Foods next to a soup kitchen. Electric scooters zooming past tents. A $1 million Tesla idling next to someone brushing their teeth with bottled water. And yet, amid this glaring disparity, society scrolls on. The homeless crisis is not an abstract policy failure. It's a collapse of human prioritization. While city leaders discuss metrics and property values, a 7-year-old sleeps on a yoga mat outside a shuttered pharmacy. In the city where movies are made, the greatest fiction might be the idea that everyone has a fair shot. So we ask, what future is left for a society where children are taught empathy in class, but must step over lives in crisis to get there? Number 2. Order through silent violence. No fences, no alarms, yet every week, dozens of makeshift shelters vanish before sunrise. The streets remain quiet, and the city gets cleaner. In Los Angeles, many local policies aimed at urban revitalization have become quiet operations of displacement. Under the guise of maintaining order, hundreds of encampments are dismantled each month. Not through confrontation, but through carefully timed evictions, where tents, blankets, photos, even medications are collected like debris and carted away, leaving no trace of life. The administrative term is sanitation, but for those on the ground, it feels like erasure. It's not just their space being cleared, it's their story, their presence, their identity. Each tent removed becomes a small, silent declaration. You were never really here. In the eyes of many policymakers, this is about maintaining a sense of urban harmony, a city clean enough to attract tourists, safe enough for high-end development. But whose definition of order are we using? When the homeless are pushed from under bridges to alleys, from parks to empty lots, they don't disappear. They're simply removed from view. And it's not just government policy. Society plays a role in perfecting this invisibility. Residents celebrate clear sidewalks. Businesses file complaints not about people, but about visual obstruction. The homeless crisis becomes easier to manage when it's kept out of sight, and therefore out of mind. What's missing from the conversation is this. The absence of confrontation doesn't mean the presence of compassion. A quiet city is not necessarily a kind one. Compliance without care is still neglect, just with better PR. When we tidy up our streets by sweeping people away, what we're really cleaning is our own discomfort. But discomfort is no excuse for disappearance. In the next section, we'll meet someone who refused to disappear and built hope from scraps in a world that wished he'd stay hidden. They called it sanitation, but what they cleaned up was a life. Type, not just trash, if you believe memories aren't disposable. Don't leave. Next, you'll meet someone the city tried to erase, but couldn't. Number 3, Joseé Fuentes, Hope Amid the Ruins. When cities sweep away tents and stories in the name of order, one question lingers. Is there anyone left who dares to say, "I'm still here"? One man does. His name is Joseé Fuentes. At 65 years old, in a city celebrated for glamour but often cold toward the vulnerable, Joseé Fuentes, a soft-spoken man of Mexican heritage, did something quietly extraordinary. He built his own home, not with concrete or contracts, but with scraps, patience, and dignity. Joseé lives in what he calls Hillside Estate. It isn't fancy. It's a hand-built shelter on the edge of a road, crafted from leftover wood, salvaged fencing, and bits of greenery he lovingly planted. A chair here, a clothesline there, a small gate, even a handmade swing. It's not just a shelter, it's a reflection of self-respect. Neighbors didn't complain. They noticed he kept the space clean, never disturbed anyone, and often shared what little he found. They gave him a nickname, Baby Jesus, not as a joke, but as a sign of affection for his kindness, his peace, his quiet presence. Then came the videos. A passerby filmed his shelter and posted it online. The story spread, and with that came criticism. Not sympathy, not support, but calls to remove it. People said it looked messy, out of place. The very effort he made to preserve his dignity became the reason others wanted him gone. This is the quiet cruelty of modern cities. We celebrate independence in theory, but often reject it when it doesn't fit the landscape we've curated. Joseé wasn't asking for pity. He wasn't demanding anything. He just wanted to exist, with grace, without being erased. Closing and bridge to next. While agencies debated who was responsible for helping him, Joseé had already helped himself. But not everyone has his resilience. In the next chapter, we travel to East Gardena, where over 500 people tried to turn their old vehicles into homes, only to see them vanish under a government program meant to help. Number 4. East Gardena, where dreams are swept away like trash. East Gardena was never intended to be a neighborhood, but in recent years, it has quietly become one. On the city's long industrial streets, more than 500 recreational vehicles, old, rusty but beloved, line the sidewalks. For their owners, they are more than just cars. They are kitchens, bedrooms, safe zones. They are homes. People park close together, forming makeshift shelters. Some families set up small porches. Others share water or food. Children play between the barriers. There are hardships, of course, but there is also something precious: community. Then there's the Pathway Home program. Introduced in the summer of 2023, the program promised cleaner streets and better housing options. In practice, it meant cleaning up. Tow trucks arrived early. One by one, the vehicles were taken away. Some were crushed, others were impounded. Officials offered some residents hotel rooms, but many declined. The hotels came with rules, curfews, surveillance, no pets. For those who had lost everything, even the slightest bit of control mattered. A warm bed, yes, but the car you control still felt like yours. Neighbors welcomed the cleanup. Finally, the streets are clean, one resident told the local news, and indeed, the streets looked cleaner. But where there had once been firelight and soft chatter, there was now silence. Tire tracks on the asphalt, a ghost town of dreams. What does a better place mean? For some, it's the safety behind walls. For others, it's the freedom to call something their own, even if it has wheels and leaks. In the next chapter, we'll see what happens when these dreams collide on the road to school, and how two versions of childhood meet on a single sidewalk. Number 5. Tragedy at the school gate. As the last tire tracks fade in East Gardena, a quieter tension emerges elsewhere. Not on wheels, but in conflict. It happens every morning, right outside the school gates. Gardena, South Los Angeles. Here, the back fence of a middle school borders what most schools are designed to avoid, a large camp. Every morning, the sidewalks are filled with two groups of kids. Some carry backpacks and head inside. Others crawl out of their tents, rubbing tired eyes, hoping for a quiet spot to sit. The contrast is impossible to ignore. On one side, the school bell, lesson plans, and lunch boxes. On the other, old tarps, sleeping bags, and whispered warnings about the police. One group of kids is studying algebra. The other is learning how to sleep lightly, how to stay warm when the temperature drops, and how to avoid attention. Why do families camp near schools? Not in protest. It's a strategy. The schools have bathrooms. They turn on the lights at night. Security is present, but less aggressive than elsewhere. These little things matter when you're just trying to get through another day. Parents of students who are housed are worried. They fear for their children's safety or wonder if seeing homelessness up close will affect them. But families living in tents are also afraid of being moved, charged, or worse, ignored. They don't want to scare anyone. They want to disappear less. A real-life example comes from South Los Angeles College Preparatory School, where the local news reported the story of a mother and daughter living in a tent across the street. The daughter still showed up to class every single day. Neat uniform, good grades. She didn't tell anyone where she slept. Her teachers only found out after the camp was cleared. Trust in the system is fragile. Many who have tried shelters have found them too crowded or unsafe. Others have tried applying for benefits but have been bogged down in paperwork. For many, camping near school isn't the challenge. It's what's left. We teach children about kindness and fairness in the classroom. But outside, they walk past their sleeping neighbors on the way in. When injustice becomes part of our morning routine, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of lessons are we really teaching? Number 6. When you have a job but can't have a home. In Los Angeles, there are luxury apartments that remain untouched, with no one inside, not even a shadow. And outside on the same streets, there are people who have nowhere to be a shadow of themselves. The city's skyline gleams with high-rise buildings, but under their glow, thousands of human beings curl up on sidewalks beneath plastic tarps and blankets worn thin. The contrast is stark. Homes are available, but people are locked out. According to the California Housing Partnership, there are approximately 70,000 vacant housing units across Los Angeles County. Meanwhile, experts estimate the city needs more than 500,000 affordable homes to meet its current housing demand. Many of these empty units are held by investors, some domestic, some foreign, waiting for property values to rise. They are not homes in the traditional sense. They are financial tools, deliberately kept unoccupied to preserve value. Marta, a full-time grocery store worker, explains that although she works 6 days a week, she cannot afford a place near her job. Instead, each night, she boards a bus back to a tent community on the city's outskirts, one of many families who once lived in neighborhoods now demolished or priced beyond reach. Numerous public housing initiatives like Build Back Better or Affordable LA have been proposed, but bureaucratic delays, skyrocketing construction costs, and political disputes have stalled real progress. For every unit approved, another family slips through the cracks. The result? Homes exist, but those who need them most are shut out. This isn't just an issue of urban planning. It's a moral question. Should housing be treated as a market asset, hoarded and flipped for profit? Or should it be upheld as a fundamental human right? If homes are reserved only for those with extra capital, who exactly is speculating with the future of justice? Each empty apartment, lit but lifeless, becomes a quiet monument to a system that rewards accumulation over dignity. Number 7. Paradox. Excess housing. Homeless people. What if we told you that some of the emptiest places in Los Angeles are filled with the most value, and some of the most crowded places hold people with absolutely nothing? Take a nighttime drive through downtown. Behind glass towers, you'll see lights glowing from high-rise windows, but no silhouettes inside. Just below them, a row of tents hugs the sidewalk, full of life, struggle, and silence. In a city drowning in affluence, the homeless crisis isn't about too little housing. It's about who gets to use it. According to the California Housing Partnership, Los Angeles County has more than 70,000 vacant housing units. Many of these apartments aren't available for rent. They're being held off the market by investors, waiting for prices to climb. Meanwhile, the city is short over 500,000 affordable homes, leaving tens of thousands in shelters, vehicles, or the open air. Marta, a grocery store employee, is one of them. She works more than 40 hours a week, often picking up extra shifts, but she sleeps in a tent in an alley behind her store. Why? Because no landlord accepts her income as sufficient, even after years of service. And she's not alone. Plans like Build Back Better and Affordable LA have promised progress, but so far, their pace can't keep up with the speed of inflation, bureaucracy, and disagreement. Projects stall, budgets explode. Meanwhile, rent continues to rise, and hope continues to shrink. What does it say about a society when entire buildings are left vacant while entire families sleep outside? This is not a matter of logistics. It is a failure of collective will. When we allow homes to sit empty, we aren't just wasting space, we're wasting futures. If only the wealthy can occupy shelter, then shelter stops being shelter. It becomes a symbol, a gate, a barrier between the privileged and those abandoned by policy. The buildings are standing, the keys exist. The question is, who are we locking out? Number 8. Support systems, ideal and broken. They said the system was built to catch you when you fall. But what if, by the time you land, the net is so tangled in paperwork that it can no longer stretch? In Los Angeles, Countless programs exist, on paper, to assist people experiencing housing instability. Veterans, seniors, single parents, those with medical crises, all are promised shelter, dignity, and a path back. But reality looks different. Many who qualify simply can't get through the door, not because help isn't offered, but because the process is designed like an obstacle course. One woman, Teresa, spent 3 months gathering documents for a temporary housing program. She was asked for a photo ID, income verification, proof of local residency, and medical records while living out of a shopping cart. Each missing paper delayed her entry by another week. She eventually gave up. Officials often cite limited resources or tight eligibility rules, but what's rarely addressed is how complexity itself becomes a form of denial. Programs expect people with no electricity, no transportation, and no internet to navigate a system built for office workers. This gap between need and access turns many away silently, without complaint, without a record. In 2024, several pilot shelters for women over 65 closed due to funding cuts. A mental health outreach center in Skid Row shut its doors just 4 months after opening. These closures don't make headlines, but they ripple, leaving more people on the street unnoticed. The dream was to build a safety net. But if that net has holes big enough for the most vulnerable to fall through, is it still a net? Or just a promise we never intended to keep? If you've ever felt like the system forgot people like Teresa, comment just "invisible" below. And stay with us, because what comes next will show why this isn't just about policy, but about people. Number 9. The endless loop and the forgotten frontline. Imagine showing up every morning to fix the same leak. You mop the floor, tighten the valve, leave for the day, and when you return, the water's still flowing. That's what many frontline workers in Los Angeles experience while addressing homelessness. Except instead of leaks, it's lives. And instead of tools, they're handed paperwork. Police officers, sanitation crews, social workers, they are often the only ones physically present when camps are cleared or when someone collapses on a sidewalk. But here's the catch. They don't have the authority to solve homelessness. They're sent out to respond, not repair. They can issue warnings, move tents, call for a crisis van. But they can't offer permanent shelter, mental health care, or job placement. That responsibility lies with agencies whose decisions are often buried in budget meetings and quarterly reports. Officer Daniels, a 10-year veteran with LAPD, admits, "We move the same folks from one block to another, week after week. It's like chasing smoke." For many on the front line, it's emotionally draining, logistically frustrating, and ultimately unproductive. Meanwhile, decision-makers gather in well-lit rooms. They host town halls, commission studies, propose 5-year plans. But as they talk, dozens of people lose housing every day, not figuratively, but literally. In 2023, over 50,000 Angelenos fell into homelessness for the first time. That's more than 100 people per day. The result is a feedback loop. Frontline responders do their best with limited power. Communities grow frustrated. Officials offer long-term visions without immediate relief. And the public, seeing no visible progress, grows numb or disengaged. If the people on the ground are exhausted and the people in charge are stalled, who's left to carry the crisis? The loop keeps turning, not because no one cares, but because no one system can fix it alone. The burden is heavy, and the hands holding it are too few. But maybe, just maybe, the loop could break if we stopped asking those with the least power to carry the biggest weight. Number 10. when poverty isn't the worst part. Silence is. In downtown Los Angeles, on a stretch of sidewalk near 5th and San Pedro, people pass daily by the tent of Rita Morris, a 72-year-old woman who once worked as a librarian in South LA. She lost her apartment after her rent was raised by over 30% in a single year, a legal increase under California's rent cap laws due to building renovations. She now lives on Skid Row, one of over 65,000 Angelenos without stable housing. Despite her background, education, and decades of work, Rita says the most painful part of her situation isn't the heat waves or the risk of theft. It's how no one speaks to her anymore. They look at their phones like I'm not here, she says. I used to help kids learn to read. Now, I can't even get someone to return a hello. In many cities across the United States, this erasure is not accidental, it's systemic. Urban beautification programs use fencing, hostile architecture, and policing to clean up streets, often displacing encampments without offering viable alternatives. Every removed tent becomes another blind spot in the public's perception. Every person moved is another story unheard. A 2024 report by the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority showed that while emergency housing has expanded, the average wait time to access it exceeds 4 months. During that time, people like Rita fall off lists, lose ID documents, or give up entirely. This silence is not the absence of noise, it is the refusal to acknowledge. But here's the twist that few expect. Many of the people you see on the streets once lived next door. A 2023 HUD analysis found that nearly 40% of newly unhoused individuals had stable housing within the previous 12 months. The danger isn't just poverty, it's how quickly the line between them and us can disappear, and how quietly it happens, not with violence, but with apathy, not with outrage, but with indifference. And in that silence, we don't just lose sight of others, we risk losing the very values that hold society together. They say poverty is the problem, but what if the real danger is something quieter? Our willingness to look away. The crisis on our streets isn't just about housing. It's about dignity, memory, and how easily a society forgets its own people. This silence, it's not peaceful, it's loud in its consequences. If we don't speak up, if we don't see them, who will see us when the roles reverse? Subscribe to RoamKind, where every story is seen, every voice is heard, and every truth matters. Let's roam with purpose.